right. Good morning, everybody. Today is Friday. Yay, it's Friday, June 24th, 2016. And this is Before the First Cup of Jules here on UCY.TV. Happy Friday, everyone. It is a sunny 65 degrees and very pleasant here in upstate New York. I think this weekend is supposed to be just about a lot more of the same, which I could take that. So where do we leave off yesterday? We titled the show 21st Century Era of Free Human Experimentation. We've spent many weeks looking at the enslavement of biology, the merging of man and machine. Not just man, but all of nature. The entire planet is being transhumanized, trans-somethingized, trans-lifeized into the image of the mad scientists who are running the show. We saw a whole bunch of different things yesterday. We ended up looking at organs on a chip, of course, that'll give them the ability to test things on you and find out how new pharmaceuticals are going to interact between your organs. All they got to do is take little stem cell scrapings and create little mini lungs, hearts, livers. It was pretty insane. But like, where does that leave the sanctity of life? And that's where we kind of left things off yesterday. We've become lab rats in a petri dish that have been sold off whole to Big Pharma to forward this plan to revolutionize, is how they're saying, a disruptive technology, revolutionize healthcare and make us all healthy because, you know, current conditions and climate change aren't going to allow us to go down this path that we are on. We can't burn fossil fuels anymore because there's too much carbon in the air. We can't eat beef in the future because cows put off too much methane, and God forbid, it's going to ruin the atmosphere as well. There are too many people on this planet to feed, so let's splice and dice the food to be able to make them grow better with GMOs, which they've proven that really didn't even pan out, even though the quote-unquote paid experts that had to give their opinion on the last 25 years of genetic modification of food said that, oh no, causes no damage, oh no, doesn't make anything unhealthy. They did say that they saw no improvement in yields or production utilizing genetic modification. It's pretty interesting. I actually just saw a story as I was coming on air, which surprised me. But remember, there's always got to be a trick here somewhere. Senators reach a bipartisan deal on GMO food labeling. What? Yeah. I don't know. Let's read this because I just literally saw this. Lawmakers in the Senate, and this was dated today, have reached a bipartisan deal to mandate the labeling of genetically modified foods across the U.S., not just singular states. Vermont recently passed more restrictive regulations that would be nullified by the federal law. So here you go. There is the little sticky piece. By them passing something at a national level, it will allow them to nullify any of the more stringent laws that were made at a state level. So again, it's all about control. This whole medical, mad science, splicing and dicing takeover that's happening right now is about control and controlling things, not just like today, traffic lights and cops writing tickets and, you know, even surveillance in the NSA and Cyber Patrol. I mean, yeah, they got a handle on everything and they're databasing it all. Found out yesterday, too, they're like going to the ends of the earth to find ways to use biology in their electronics that right now are surveilling, but tomorrow are going to be embedded. And not just into our clothing. We saw that Project Jacquard, but into our bodies as well. They're going to get it into us as part of monitoring to be healthy, to be safe. But don't think that that data, that biometric data, your location data, what you eat data, who's around you data, how your body works, how your cells talk to each other, once they splice and dice you and put you into that medical database, they can now compare and contrast. So you can become a part of that new precision medicine cohort program that, of course, all the pharmaceutical industries have access to develop new drugs and make you healthy. But they want control. So by this federal law, this new federal, what do they call it? It's not a law, a bipartisan deal that may become a law someday. They could overrule any of the state laws that have already been passed. This agreement, which was announced yesterday and Thursday, was put forward by Senate Agricultural Committee member Senator Pat Roberts, who is a Republican from Kansas, and Senator Debbie Stabenow, a Republican from Michigan. It would preempt all state laws. So ding, this sounds like a piggyback to that Monsanto Protection Act that got passed, which allows you to not sue Monsanto if it or other manufacturers if it is ever found that genetic modification of food caused you damage. If you find out, if you can beyond a shadow of a doubt 20 years from now prove that your rampant cancer was caused from eating a genetically modified soybean that Monsanto CRISPR'd, you can't sue them. There's nothing you can do. You can become part of their study. And we're going to look at that at the end of the show today. I'm going to show you where this is going to end. Maybe not end. This is going to be the next phase, right? We've talked about this 21st Century Cures Act and about that sitting in front of the Senate. It hasn't had a vote yet. They're waiting to see what happens, but they're looking to circumvent any type of regulatory approval. We saw that has already happened with the National Institute of Health and genetic modification of humans, right? Yesterday, we read the story. On Tuesday, they did the final vote with that recombatant DNA committee, who only looks now at a few sprinkled cases of gene therapy across the United States. It used to be the approval of all, but now it's so mainstream. Don't worry about it. But they approved CRISPRing of humans for the very first time. They're going to start messing around with our T cells. And of course, they're coming up with the cure for cancer. And they want to see what's going to happen. And we read they're going to use 40 healthy volunteers. They're going to take out their T cells. They're going to genetically modify them to be more reactive and then put them back into the person to see if they can now recognize cancerous tumors. Now, it didn't say if these were 40 healthy volunteers. Maybe that was the Mad Science Gone Mad genetically modified Zika vaccine. I don't remember. But regardless, it's mad science anywhere. And this is all never before done on humans. These are phase 1 human trials. Well, I found a story, I've been talking about the promise of stem cells, and out of all these mad science technologies, I would have to say that stem cells probably offer the most promise. And I might even be cajoled, if I were in a desperate situation, to maybe seek out some stem cell therapy. They can take your skin cells right off your hand, literally, and put some chemicals on them, which I don't kind of like that part. I wish they could just talk to them nice. And with those chemicals, they can stroke them and make them into whatever kinds of pluripotent stem cell, which is the beginning stages of embryonic stem development, where it goes back to zero and can reset itself to any cells for any organ in the body. They could take it right back there with some chemicals and then coax it into whatever stem cells they need, heart, lung, brain. But we're going to find out. We've been talking about all this insanity research happening in other countries. They've already given the green light to CRISPRing humans in China and in the UK. The UK, which is no longer part of the EU. Brexit vote last night. UK and Wales have decided to depart. And breaking news, Cameron stepped down. So who knows? I see the stock markets are tanking big time. I think we opened the Dow at 700 down. So it doesn't look too good. Maybe this is the first domino we were talking about last night. But guys, this mad science gone mad. They have already been CRISPRing humans in other countries. So for them to approve it here on Tuesday, Was no big surprise. What was a big surprise to me, and maybe not even, was that we have a Facebook billionaire, Sean Parker, who's financing the first round of human CRISPRing. And we've been finding time and time again that these tech billionaires are financing this quote unquote longevity medicine, right? We dug way into that long ago. This whole longevity project ties right into Kurzweil. Notice Kurzweil was out there as a talking head for a while. Now he's gotten real quiet because those horrific plans that they've had in their heads, their evil hands rubbing together in dark rooms underground in their meetings, on how they were going to reshape the world in their vision, has commenced. This precision medicine, mad science gone mad, splicing and dicing humans, was part of their plan. Remember, we talked before about how we're literally talking months ago, 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 months ago, they were still arguing about the ethics of having a self-driving car kill you and your passenger versus killing the 50 people on the sidewalk in order to minimize deaths in an accident. I mean, that was an ethical dilemma. Or whether or not we're going to give future artificial intelligence human rights. That was an ethical dilemma. But now we have, within a week, we have a meeting at Harvard, secret, 150 scientists, all discussing whether or not we're going to create the synthetic human genome. And within a week, we decided we're going to do it. And first round of funding for that one came from Autodesk. Who? Right. Autodesk, the company who makes AutoCAD. I don't know. It makes no sense to me, except that I'm thinking that getting themselves in the game, and with all this 3D printing that's going on, and they can 3D print organs and do all this crap. And these guys, I'm telling you, I've used AutoCAD integrated into all different kinds of applications that manufacturer specific, where, we could have the manufacturers, every piece of equipment that they have, drag and drop it with all the images and, make your network lines. You could do 3D renditions for people who are doing molding, lathing, that type of thing. But it's all automated now. Everything is automated. So I do see where Autodesk maybe thinks that they have a niche in the future. But the first round of creating a synthetic human genome is being financed by Autodesk. We've been seeing again, time and time, that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is rearing their ugly heads every single time we run across another technology. We saw yesterday that University of Pennsylvania, that we've hit in maybe 6 different stories now. They were the ones messing around with the edible vaccines in lettuce. We found them. Now they're working, they were working on the shape-shifting artificial immune system. We read about that one as well. It's going to literally be gene therapy, not an injection. It's going to be gene therapy. It's going to go in with synthetic DNA and start manipulating your DNA so it can search and destroy foreign invaders. And then we started reading about the technology that the same University of Pennsylvania is using in this CRISPRing human experiment that they just got approved for. And by the way, it's messing around with the immune system again. I don't know if they're all the same project, but they're all along similar lines. They are genetically modifying parts of the human body, or genetically modifying E. coli, we found out they were messing around with to produce things, produce drugs. Remember what that last one was? I don't know. Every day there's a new E. coli story. We've been CRISPRing, zipping, and unzipping. Good old Jennifer Doudna's technology is turning the world on its head, upside down, in a very fast way. Well, let me share with you a few little tidbits of research I ran across last night. We were looking at CRISPRing humans and all these other technologies that seem to be coming out of the University of Pennsylvania. Well, I dug in a little because I almost thought to myself yesterday after I did the notes for the show, I'm like, wait a minute, didn't I see something a few months back about the president of the University of Pennsylvania being appointed at one point to some sort of Obama commission? How on earth does the University of Pennsylvania end up with all this leading edge research just out of the blue, brand new technologies, right? All first time, ethics out a window. But it's okay, don't worry about it. Federal agencies giving the green light. They had a unanimous board except for the one guy who abstained and bit his tongue until it bled. But how did the University of Pennsylvania find themselves in such a profitable position? And didn't we just have that whole Hassert? No, not Hassert. Hassert just went to jail, by the way. I saw that yesterday, too. No. What's his name? Cupidal for the audience. What's his name? He was the coach that molested all those kids. I don't remember. But wasn't he from down there? And didn't he have a lot of connections to a lot of rich people and a lot of people in the know? I think he mysteriously died then before his trial, too, didn't he? Well, anyway, I don't know. Just hearsay. Actually, I don't think it was, but not where I want to go. But it just seems suspicious. It's University of Pennsylvania right out of the blue. So check this out. First of all, I find out that one of Obama's kids is considering the University of Pennsylvania. But we also have this president, Dr. Amy Gutmann. She is the 8th president of the University of Pennsylvania. Amy Gutmann is an internationally recognized leader in higher education. And since becoming its president in 2004, she has been an outspoken advocate to increased access to higher education and has led Penn State, or whatever it is, Penn University, to become the largest university to establish an all-grant policy for undergrads who qualify. Now, I'm just looking at the date, too. 2004, it's right about the time when that Project BioShield mad science started spinning up. 2006 is when I first heard about the universal flu vaccine they were experimenting with. And we discovered that had initially started with tobacco, DARPA, and the University of Texas, Texas A&M University. And then they did some work with the tobacco companies up in Kentucky. And then we find out that the University of Pennsylvania started growing lettuce to produce antibodies, antigens, vaccine makings. Anyway, and now they're just like splicing and dicing humans. Anyway, a first-generation college student herself, President Gutmann has significantly expanded the number of students, blah, 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 under her leadership. Penn University completed its largest, most successful fundraising effort in 2013. Yes, thank you, Iota. Jerry Sandusky. Was he from the University of Pennsylvania? I'm sure he was from Pennsylvania. I just don't remember what university. They have raised $4.3 billion since 2013. $4.3 billion with a B through the Making History campaign. Yeah, they sure are making history. I lost my spot. I'm reading chat. Don't do that. You don't do that. At the same time, the university has uniquely bridged academic disciplines by creating Penn Integrates Knowledge University professorships and a new interdisciplinary majors program that span Penn's 12 schools. So there are 12 schools as part of it, invigorating the intellectual climate for both faculty and students. Dr. Gutmann, remember this is the president of the University of Pennsylvania, is a Christopher H. Brown Distinguished Professor of Political Science and Professor of Communication in the Annenberg School of Communication with a secondary faculty appointment in philosophy in the School of Arts and Sciences and a graduate of the School of Education. She has published widely on the value of education and deliberation in democracy, on the importance of the access to higher education and health care, and, quote, on the good, the bad, and the ugly of identity politics, and on the essential role of what? Oh, something that we seem to have lost, ethics. especially professional and political ethics in public affairs. Now, talk about an oxymoron, because wait until you hear what she was appointed to. She continues her path-breaking scholarship as Penn's president, publishing her 16th book, The Spirit of Compromise, line right up for 21st century medicine. Appointed in 2009 by Barack Obama. Here comes, people. She chairs the Presidential Commission for the Study of Bioethical Issues. Now, how interesting that the president of the University of Pennsylvania, where we have found like 5-6 projects just exploding right now, the most recent CRISPRing humans that just got its approval on Tuesday, all coming out of the University of Pennsylvania. And the president has been appointed in 2009 as the chairperson for the Presidential Commission for the Study of Bioethical Issues. But hey, just 6 months ago, oh my God, like I said, self-driving cars killing the driver over the 50 people on the sidewalk was the big concern. And here we are splicing and dicing in the near future humans to see what happens. She was also elected and served as chair of the Association of American Universities from 2014 to 15. So she has a real nice network of universities that she can lean on, different people she can pull in. She also serves on the National Commission of Humanities and Social Sciences, the Board of National Constitution Center, and the Vanguard Group. What? Aren't they investors? You know, I told you what they end up doing. They get a lot of this funding money from DARPA or rich tech billionaires, right? We found out Sean Parker is giving the money now to them to do this human first round CRISPRing. But Vanguard, I think they're a venture capitalist firm. Let's look. And they do investments and all kinds of things, but they are a Wall Street connection. When you get DARPA money sprinkled under the name of national security to your university for your best and your brightest to come up with a solution to our most difficult problems, in this case, synthetic people, synthetic immune systems, to be able to protect you from any threat that's out there, envisioned or otherwise, cure for cancer, shape-shifting immune systems. What they'll do is when they get a product, they then spin it off to an IPO, an initial public offering. They make the company public. And all those people who were involved in the beginnings of coming up with this new technology, even though a lot of it was funded a lot of times by taxpayer dollars, but again, sometimes by rich tech billionaires, get a whole lot richer. And here's something we've talked about a lot, CRISPR technology. Jennifer Doudna and her partner, and I don't remember his name, but there's still a legal battle going on over who actually owns the CRISPR technology. Jennifer Doudna seems to be a good person. She comes out and talks about the dangers and why we must proceed very carefully. While on the flip side, this technology has just gone rampant. We read about that Adogene. That was that not-for-profit company that sent out like 60,000 CRISPR kits to whoever requested one globally so we could have Johnny genetically modifying yeasts in the garage. But as this technology is spinning out of control, we had CRISPR. I think CRISPR was invented at Harvard. Let's look real closely because I know Doudna was from like Berkeley in California, but they had this whole partnership going. Where was CRISPR developed? There we go. Let's find out. CRISPR. Oh, MIT and Harvard. Oh, who would have thunk it? It's called the Broad Institute, and it is a collaboration between MIT and Harvard. Now, we found out the Weiss Institute, which is part of MIT, is where a lot of this RoboBees, making molecular machines out of living cells. Eric Drexler and nanotechnology, the origami mass production of small molecular biological robotics. Swarm technology, that all came out of the Weiss Institute. Well, CRISPR apparently came out of the Broad Institute. The discovery of CRISPR-Cas, microbial adaptive immune system. What? So is that what they're calling it? They're calling it an adaptive immune system. So this is where it all came from. And its ongoing development into a genome editing tool represents the work of many scientists from around the world, and this timeline presents a concise history of the seminal contributions and the scientists who published this field forward from the initial discovery to the first demonstrations of CRISPR-mediated genome editing. So it was actually first discovered between 1993 and 2005. It says in Spain, which is pretty interesting. And then in 2005, the French. Then in 2006, the U.S. Center for Biotechnology Information. 2007, France. 2008, the Netherlands. So you're not out of it there, Saul. 2008, also University of Illinois, Northwestern. 2010, Quebec City, Canada. So you guys aren't either. 2011, Austria and Sweden. 2011, there was Lithuania. Here we go. 2012, Jennifer Doudna, University of California, Berkeley. I knew she was from over there. 2013, the Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard were the last ones to get on it. And guess what? Not only is it the Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard that has harnessed CRISPR-Cas9 for genome editing, but it was also the McGovern Institute for Brain Research at MIT. We talked about brain research too. We might get into that if I can get my butt moving through some stories here. So anyway, so that's the brief history of CRISPR. So blame it on Spain. But Jennifer Doudna was a big part of this. Wait till you hear this. So they spun out this CRISPR technology into a company. And that company was called Adidas Medicine. Well, I ran across the story, and I know we covered this back in January, but I think it kind of slipped through the cracks because, again, who rears their ugly heads? And there's not one but two. Gene editing drug maker, because, they're making drugs. They're not really drugs, though. They're gene therapy. So you don't get scared. They tell you it's a drug maker. Gene editing drug maker is now going to be backed by Google and Gates as they file for their initial public offering, and that is January 4th, 2016. That is the CRISPR company. Adidas Medicine, the drug maker who is backed by people including Bill Gates and Google Ventures, filed to become the first publicly traded company to specialize in a new technology to edit flaws in genes. Now, I'm wondering if Gates, we read about that Synologics company, that synthetic gut bacteria company coming out of MIT that's going to cure you through allowing this genetically modified bacteria to go in and start manipulating proteins and different things that are produced within your body, within your gut, start altering chemicals. But they're going to be genetically modifying that synthetic bacteria. Makes me wonder, I'm watching Bill Gates' investments here. They have Borat Pharmaceuticals in India. We've seen India. India's working on those edible vaccines, tying genetic modification between food and living biological creatures all into one science. Anyway, so Bill Gates and Google are part of this. We found Google with their Verily Life Sciences, Tommy Insel, former head of the National Institute of Mental Health, now being over there, the Google contact lenses. We were reading about their studies now into behavior and how you make a decision real time. They've been able to watch that and how it all happens in that frontal cortex that connects directly to the eye. They can watch your behavior as it is rolling out real time. You don't think that that's not going to be a part of these studies? As they're also studying, especially with this National Microbiome Project, as edicted by Obama, how gut bacteria can influence your brain. Guys, this is such a horrifying picture. Trying to explain this to everyone and connect all the dots into a big flowchart like you would make with AutoCAD. It would be like a big network diagram, but a network diagram of insanity, of mad science gone mad. You know, I should do that. I should fire up one of my old versions. I gotta have some sort of AutoCAD or Visio or something here somewhere and make a diagram. I've seen it. I've seen the New World Order one years ago. Somebody had that, how all the institutions are connected. I think we need to make one for mad science and see how many times tech billionaires, Bill Gates being one of them, and Google, and the National Institute of Health, and the federal government, and Facebook, mind you, all connect back. Oh, and DARPA. All connect back to this nightmare, this dystopian nightmare, this beyond my wildest ever dystopian nightmares that are unfolding before us right now. Anyway, so back to this Adidas medicine. This company, which uses a gene editing technique called CRISPR, whose backers include Bill Gates and Google Ventures, filed on Monday in January 2016 for their IPO with an initial size of $100 million, and that is a placeholder used to calculate fees, and it'll probably change. Gene editing startups have drawn more than $1 billion in private venture capital investments since 2013, according to Boston Consulting Group, with investors hopeful that this new, more precise DNA editing capability will yield treatments for conditions such as diverse blood diseases, cancers, autoimmune disorders, and inherited eye disorders. Now, we already read about cancers, autoimmune eye disorders, I don't know, blood diseases. I think that blood disease and the eye disorders, weren't they some of the genetic deformities that they were working on? Small groups, only small numbers of people got these genetic disorders, but these are going to be some of the first CRISPR'd humans in other countries. Cambridge, Massachusetts-based Adidas has raised $163.3 million from selling preferred stocks, it said in its filing. And the venture capitalist firm of Flagship Ventures and Polaris Partners each hold more than 15% of the company before the offering. Google Ventures, which is the investment arm of Alphabet, which goes by GV for short, has also bought some of the private shares, along with Bill Gates and Khosla, Khosla Ventures. I don't know them. That might be a little research project. Roger Novak, chief executive of Basel, Switzerland-based CRISPR Therapeutics Limited, had said that he would also consider an IPO this year, and both companies have said that their first in-human trials will not start until 2017. Well, they got that timeline right on the money, because we just got the approval on Tuesday for a project that they are working on at the University of Pennsylvania, whose president since 2009 has been the chairperson of Obama's Committee for Ethics in Medicine, who has this human CRISPR project that's being funded by a Facebook billionaire, with technology that has been funded in part by Bill Gates and Google. This is beyond frightening. This is not for your good. Step right up. We're going to cure your cancer. Just let us suck out your T cells, genetically modify them, and then put them back into you just like that little synthetic immune system we were working on. And let's see what happens. And if things go awry, Johnny, well, you'll be part of the history books. Your name will go down and you'll still be important because you gave it up to help all of humanity fix all these problems that we're having in our world, fix illness, live forever. Other closely held gene editing firms include Intellia Therapeutics and Poseida Therapeutics, Inc. Bayer AG and CRISPR Therapeutics also started a joint venture in December of 2015 with a $335 million investment from Bayer. Now, we saw Bayer is also making a play for Monsanto. I don't think that's gone down yet. I know that there was a rejection of a bid, but I didn't see Bayer and Monsanto. Let's see when the last update to that was. 20 hours ago. Is there any price at which Bayer investors will accept a Monsanto buyout? And hint, the answer is no. Well, then I guess it might not happen. I saw a while ago that I thought Monsanto and Syngenta, we had done a story where they were looking to merge at one time, and they were going to move their headquarters out of Research. I think they're in Research Triangle Park, or at least they have a big facility for Agra in Research Triangle Park. They were going to move their facilities out of the United States and put their headquarters in Europe, because of and change their name as well. But that I don't think happens either. So now it looks like Bayer investors might not want them as well. Anyway, Adidas. So this Adidas CRISPR company funded by Bill Gates and Google intends to use about $15 million to $20 million of the proceeds for preclinical studies and clinical trials of its lead program, which is in Leber congenital amaurosis, an inherited form of progressive blindness, which we kind of mentioned that's one of those genetically inherited diseases they're going to splice and dice. And as much as $22 million of the net proceeds will be used for preclinical studies in the company's collaboration with Juno Therapeutics, which is a developer of cancer therapies. Well, biotech IPOs slowed a little bit in 2015. No IPOs priced in December at all. There may be a few coming alongside Adidas. 4 other companies also filed to go public. That's Corvus Pharmaceuticals, who is a cancer drug maker. Corvus was started by Richard Miller, blah, 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 which was Pharmacyclics, which was sold to AbbVie. And we've run across AbbVie. And again, some of this DARPA fundamental science sprinkled at the universities. Audence Therapeutics is another one, and Rita Pharmaceuticals, Syndax Pharmaceuticals, Tabula Rasa Healthcare, and I don't know any of those. So put on a seatbelt, though, because they are spinning out all over. So we have this 21st Century Cures Act. This is kind of like the motivator along with Obama's Declaration of Precision Medicine. And 21st Century Cures Act could be a harmful step backwards. Precision medicine is the next big thing in healthcare, and it's also one of the few goals that Congress and the White House agree on. But while we await treatments targeting the precise genetic makeup of individuals and diseases, medical researchers are not paying close enough attention to the most important kind of differences. And that would be the differences in sex, age, and race. A clear example of this disconnect was the 21st Century Cures Act, which was passed overwhelmingly by the House of Representatives. So it was passed. And now it's sitting at the Senate. The goal of this bill is to stimulate the development of new cures for a range of diseases. And yeah, there's all kinds of money being spent, all in the name of national security. Many medical schools and patient organizations are supporters, and they're sucking our kids in. It's going to be the new economy, Obama said. Just like the sequencing of the human genome was to the 20th century, the precision medicine is going to be in this whole brain project and bagging and tagging every cell down to a DNA level into the database is going to be for the 21st century. Many medical school and patient organizations are supporters since the proposal provides almost $9 billion that we don't have to the National Institute of Health, including a boost for precision medicine. The 360-page bill offers other potential benefits as well, but an immediate impact would be to ignore differences between how men and women and younger and older patients influence the safety and effectiveness of many medical products. Now, one of the things, though, that they're looking at is how to cure death as a disease, right? How many times has Kurzweil, who is appointed as one of the unholy trinity, as the head of engineering, the director of engineering for Google, working on his AI project and his nanobots in the blood. Pretty frightening. They have been trying to find ways by comparing older and younger and men and women in a database, right? Don't think that Obamacare and electronic medical health records were an accident, or declaring that we need to get rid of or at least scale back HIPAA protections for privacy of your files. And then selling you the whole story that by giving it up to the machine, getting your swabs, Ancestry.com, putting your DNA in to become part of this cohort program to help them come up with cures, as you have companies such as 23andMe who are profiting, Adidas Medicine who are profiting, Bill and Melinda Gates, and Google Ventures who are profiting from your free biometric data being put into a database and allowing them to then make, artificially intelligent algorithms scan through the data and find correlations. They can find which sequence maybe is damaged in people who have diabetes at 62. They can find which switches to flip to be able to turn that on and off. But it's not an exact science. We're in phase 1 trials here. And it might not necessarily be in your best interest, because for all the good, there's a bad. For all the ways that we can turn on or off proteins or turn on and off defective genes to make you healthy again, we also have ways that we can turn on and off proteins or turn on and off sequences that could very quickly or very slowly lead to your disablement or death. Something inside you go awry, you start getting a knock under the engine, and you don't quite figure it out till it's a little too late. It could be curtains for you getting one of these newfangled therapies. So how are they going to take care of that? Well, just like you would in a network, you would have 24/7 monitoring. You would have the ability to monitor real time what is happening within your network. This is where the Internet of Things comes in. We've talked about this many times. Right now, the Internet of Things is maybe just a thermostat or a refrigerator. What do we find out? We got Zika TVs out there now, too. Probably Internet enabled. Smart Zika TVs. But you got smart fridges and smart cars and smart phones. You're going to have smart clothes soon, smart underwear. Diagnostic biosensor devices everywhere. Under Armour underwear that could talk to IBM Watson, it's his little buddy, and be able to provide you real-time information on what your biological status is. Eventually they're going to have this little mirror on the wall. I saw an example of a prototype back a while ago in one of those tech magazines like Gizmodo or one of them, and I just saw now a IEEE, I think it was, out of the Electrical Engineering Association, that they are now able to embed LEDs inside of glass for touchscreen. Once they start mass producing that, you are literally going to have a mirror on the wall. You'll be able to go to your touchscreen tabletop wall hanging mirror. It'll have a mirror which will also turn into your screen for viewing things, and it'll have a dashboard of all your biological real-time statistics on that board. Your weight, your body temperature, your pH maybe, your blood cell count, your white blood cells, your red blood cells, your oxygen, whatever they call it, dissolvability, your heart rate, your sugar levels, with little reminders. And they'll be acquiring that information from synthetic or genetically modified little molecular machines, DNA, nanobots, synthetic gut bacteria, all these different things that they're working on right now. Who knows where the sensors are going to be, but they're all to go inside you, okay? And they're all programmed. Wireless radios have been built for like the size of a tip of a pencil. So that's not an issue anymore. They have swallowable pills, and they had these already for years. You could swallow this little capsule that's got real HD cameras in it. So instead of getting a colonoscopy, which typically does lower GI, if they need to get an upper GI, they used to have to do the thing down your throat. They don't have to do that anymore. They have these little pills with HD cameras in them, and you swallow it, and you got this little box that's got 802.11 Wi-Fi that you clip to your belt loop for 24 or 48 hours. And as this pill is traveling down your GI tract, it's taking like 10 or 100 pictures a second, all in HD, and it's sending them via wireless to that little box clipped on your belt. And once it fully passes and it gets flushed into the sewer system, you then go back to your doctor or stick it in a self-addressed stamped envelope and send it back to your doctor's office for him to pull out the flash card and take a look at the images. Like, that's been around for a long time. Well, they've miniaturized all of that, and they've released those little thinking machines inside and turned them into programmable, tiny little biological organisms by either hijacking one of your cells or creating a synthetic version of it and then inserting it back into you to be able to monitor, bag, and tag. And see, the way the 21st century is going to play out here is that resources are all going to become limited. We already see that happening with climate change, wildfires everywhere. Oh my God, unpredicted burning heat, droughts, floods, tornadoes, animal species dying. We're at the Great Sixth Extinction. Methane leaks out of the ocean floor. Big movement in the San Andreas Fault. Guys, it's all being set up, whether this is happening on its own or it's being orchestrated, regardless of what the reason is. This is called disaster capitalism. This is called problem, reaction, solution. This is how they're going to get us all to buy in. And because of climate change, of course, we have these never-before-seen diseases that maybe were benign at one point in time, but they've mutated from the heat. And now we have to come up with ways to protect you from the next massive biohazard. But don't worry about it. We'll be able to CRISPR humans and build synthetic immune systems that can react to any danger, known or unknown. We read that yesterday as well. Again, more funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation with that. Shape-shifting immune systems. DARPA was working on it. IBM also has their own project going on. University of Pennsylvania. It's just insane. So when the big pandemic happens and they declare the emergency, that pandemic that spun out of climate change, that spun out of disaster, that spun out of whatever the next catastrophe is to make you run afraid and look for someone to save you, you're going to be assimilated. And once you're assimilated and you've become part of the Internet of Things and you have your mirror on the wall that'll be giving you your live biostatistics 24/7, how great it is, because we'll be able to have a healthy society that lives forever, because those little nanobodies, those little synthetic T cells or whatever, synthetic gut bacteria, are running around inside of you fixing anything that goes wrong before it becomes an issue. But they'll have you and your network monitoring in a real-time dashboard. They can follow you anywhere. They can listen to anything. They might even be able to read your thoughts. And, I really wanted to get to that today. Let's go there. I think I've rambled enough. We'll get to some of the other insanity on Monday. So we talked about yesterday them building artificial synapses to mimic the human brain. There was also another story about how brain scanning has gotten not just good, but very, very good. And not only very, very good, but very unsettling. 7 years ago, the U.S. National Institute of Health, again, ding, decided to map all the connections in the brain. And in 2010, the Human Connectome Project was born. It has provided funding to the tune of $40 million to two collaborating consortia whose aim is to acquire and share high-resolution data of the structural and functional connections inside the human brain. The researchers have sought to understand on a scale never before attempted the neural pathways that make us human and how changes in those pathways can make us sick. Yes, all about how to cure you. And at the symposium yesterday, and this was just the other day, June 21st, so on June 20th, at the National Institute of Health campus in Bethesda, Maryland. Yeah, lots of lizards there. Top research from this health consortium came together to provide an update on the project's achievement and their future direction. And to date, this consortium has released brain scanning data from hundreds of individuals who've stepped right up. And that data has been used in more than 140 scientific publications. Perhaps even more importantly, this effort has produced impressive new technology, including unprecedented magnetic resonance hardware. And among these gadgets are high-powered scanners and customized head coils. In addition, there's been legions of software now for analyzing, visualizing, and sharing petabytes of neuroimaging data that's being generated. This project has also moved brain scanning into the realm of the future film Minority Report, ding, 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 by showing that a person's brain activity is as unique as their fingerprint, and that it can be used, and we covered the story if you remember, it can be used to identify a person with a 99% accuracy. You can't run and you can't hide. Their data has also enabled researchers to use a brain scan to predict how a person will perform on an intelligence test or during a memory or a reading task. This may be a bit scary, says Roderick Pettigrew, the director of the National Institute of Biomedical Imaging and Bioengineering, during his introductory remarks at this symposium. Yeah, just a little bit. But one of the consortia with collaborations at Washington University in St. Louis and the University of Minnesota has now completed scanning the brains of 1,200 healthy adults. And they will now upload this week data to the internet, so it's freely available to neurologists around the world. So far, there are more than 5,600 investigators that have entered the public database, and they have more than 9.5 petabytes of brain data out there for them to all study. Again, people, you're now all in the database for them to figure out how to manipulate and control the brain. Now, I want to move one step further in the last 2 minutes of the show here. This is a story out of Natural Blaze. It's Heather Callaghan's website. Yale scientists are developing a machine that will extract images from your mind. There's no good that could come of this. Scientists are developing a mind-reading machine that can read and translate your thoughts into text, including images. Talk about the ultimate in spying. A device that may make our internal monologues a thing of the past. Again, that is the very, very, very last bastion of freedom that makes us human. Was just announced as being under development in the United States. The eavesdropping machine can actually hear the little voices inside of your head and make them known to others. This potentially dangerous mind-reading device is being developed by American and German scientists at Yale. Oh, go figure. With a study being led by Professor Melvin Chung and designed by Alan Cohen, a PhD student at the university. Their efforts are being combined to develop an advanced instrument that turns our secret thoughts into readable text and recognizable imagery. Scientists on the project have a goal of reproducing audible speech using our inaudible brain functions, and they want to do it in real time. While electrodes and underdeveloped technology currently limit the applications for the device, scientists are looking busily for loopholes. Yale has now teamed up with UC Berkeley again to determine how hearing, speaking, and imaging overlap in the brain. We want to develop an implantable device that decodes the signals that occur in our brain when we think about a word, and then turn these signals into a sound file that can be reproduced by a speech device. And if you can even believe it, that is some of the stuff that they were just talking about in this article that was published about all the brain research. We now have 1,200 healthy adult brain scans, super high resolution, 5,600 investigators working on it to now figure out how words appear. And we just found out images. All right, guys, well, make sure you stick around because it is Friday and Ms. Lonnie Clark is live up next. All kinds of great radio tonight. Josh live at 6, Levon live at 11 p.m. Eastern, and tons of great radio this weekend. Have an awesome Friday, and I will get to you on Monday.
Listening to UCY.tv.